From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
The case is dismissed. Amy Goodman is a free woman.
And this dismissal, this rejection of the charges, is a complete vindication of the right of a journalist to report on the truth, and more importantly, the right of the public to know what is happening with the pipeline and with the struggle of the people here to protect their water and to protect their land.
We're just back from North Dakota, where Judge John Grinsteiner rejected a misdemeanor riot charge against me. We'll bring you the scene from outside the courthouse, where other people also had charges dropped. Then, as people across the world have come to join the resistance against the Dakota Access Pipeline, the encampment has become one of the largest gatherings of Native Americans and their supporters in decades. People have set up multiple kitchens, a school that teaches Lakota languages, medical services to care for those who've come to fight the pipeline. As the first baby is born in the main resistance camp in Cannonball, North Dakota, we speak with women and midwives about the importance of reproductive health care on Native American reservations.
I have one doctor that comes from here, and he schedules the women's births based on his schedule and induces them. So I would say like at least 90% of the women in Cheyenne River who have babies are scheduled on his schedule. And it's not right for our children to be born that way.
All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Pentagon has confirmed U.S. Special Forces are on the ground in Iraq, taking part in the battle to retake Mosul, Iraq's second-largest city, which fell to ISIS 2 years ago. Despite President Obama's pledge against having boots on the ground, the Pentagon said U.S. Special Forces are on the front lines in finding targets for U.S. airstrikes. The offensive to take Mosul is expected to take weeks, if not months. Iraqi forces reportedly captured 20 ISIS-held villages Monday. Aid groups fear the fighting will force over 1 million residents of Mosul to flee. Courtney Lair works with the Norwegian Refugee Council in the Iraqi city of Erbil.
NRC is currently preparing for massive waves of displacement coming out of Mosul. We are expecting in the first several weeks up to 200,000 individuals and total around 700,000 people fleeing Mosul in the coming months. The humanitarian community is desperately trying to prepare, but this many people at once is extremely challenging. In news from Syria, Russia and Syria have temporarily halted airstrikes on the besieged city of Aleppo in what Russia described as a humanitarian pause. A new round of talks is expected to begin Wednesday in Geneva. In campaign news, The Guardian is reporting Donald Trump has hired Mike Roman, the former head of the Koch brothers intelligence gathering operation, to run an election protection effort. For weeks, Trump has been claiming the election would be rigged at the voting booth. On Monday, Trump claimed dead people and undocumented immigrants are voting.
They even want to try to rig the election at the polling booths. And believe me, there's a lot going on. Do you ever hear these people? They say there's nothing going on. People that have died 10 years ago are still voting. Illegal immigrants are voting. I mean, where are the street smarts of some of these politicians? They don't have any, is right. So many cities are corrupt, and voter fraud is very, very common.
Experts say cases of voting fraud are very rare. One study by Loyola Law School found just 31 instances involving allegations of voter impersonation out of 1 billion votes cast in U.S. elections between 2000 and 2014. Trump's claims of a rigged election have been widely criticized by members of both parties. Ohio Secretary of State John Husted said Trump was wrong and engaging in irresponsible rhetoric. In other campaign news, Melania Trump has come to her husband's defense following the release of a 2005 video in which Trump is heard bragging about sexually assaulting women. Melania described his comments as, quote, boy talk, and accused TV host Billy Bush of egging Donald Trump on. She spoke with CNN's Anderson Cooper.
Those words, they were offensive to me, and they were inappropriate. And he apologized to me, and I accept his apology. And we are moving on.
From a woman's perspective, what were your thoughts when you heard those tapes?
This is not the man that I know.
In related news, NBC has fired Billy Bush from his job as host at the Today Show following the release of the Trump tape. Meanwhile, a transcript has been published of a 1994 interview Trump did on ABC's Primetime Live. During the interview, Trump said, "I don't want to sound like a chauvinist, but when I come home at night and dinner's not ready, I go through the roof." Trump also said, quote, "I tell friends who treat their wives magnificently and get treated like crap in return, be rougher and you'll see a different relationship." Meanwhile, Republicans are calling for State Department official Patrick Kennedy to resign after newly released FBI documents suggest he pressured the agency last year to downgrade the classification of emails found on Hillary Clinton's private server. According to the FBI documents, Kennedy offered to allow the FBI to place more agents in Iraq in exchange for declassifying the emails. The FBI and the State Department have denied that a quid pro quo ever existed. A retired four-star Marine Corps general has pled guilty to making false statements to the FBI during an investigation into leaks of classified information. James Cartwright, who was known as President Obama's favorite general, admitted he lied to the FBI during an investigation into who leaked classified information to the New York Times about Stuxnet, a secret U.S. cyber warfare operation against Iran. According to Yahoo News, Cartwright is the 10th person to be criminally charged under President Obama in a case related to classified disclosures, more by far than were brought by any president before him. In news from Guantanamo, Mahamadou Ould-Slahi has been released back to his home country of Mauritania after being held at Guantanamo since 2002 without charge or trial. Slahi wrote the best-selling memoir Guantanamo Diary, in which he describes being severely tortured by U.S. guards. In climate news, NASA's reporting last month was the warmest September on record. 11 of the past 12 months have now broken records. Scientists say 2016 is almost certain to be the warmest year ever, breaking last year's record. This comes as it still feels like summer throughout much of the East Coast and Midwest, with record-breaking temperatures expected today in dozens of cities. In Dodge City, Kansas, the temperature reached 101 degrees Fahrenheit Monday. In other climate news, a new study by the United Nations has found climate change could drive 122 million more people into extreme poverty in the next 15 years, in part due to the impact it's already having on small-scale farmers. The Guardian's reporting ExxonMobil has asked a federal court in Texas to throw out a subpoena from New York State that would force the oil company to hand over decades of documents as part of a wide-ranging inquiry into whether it misled investors about climate change risks. Last year, Inside Climate News and the Los Angeles Times revealed that, beginning in 1977, Exxon concealed its own findings that fossil fuels cause global warming. The nation's largest police organization, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, has issued a formal apology for the, quote, historical mistreatment of communities of color, unquote. The organization represents 18,000 members. Alicia Garza, a co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement, told Think Progress the admission is a positive step toward justice, reconciliation, and healing, but said it doesn't go far enough to address modern-day problems. Garza said, quote, if the last 3 years has shown us anything, it's that these deplorable actions are still happening today. Black people are dying at the hands of police at the rate of 1 every 28 hours, she said. In media news, a British state-owned bank has reportedly cut ties to the Russian-backed broadcaster RT. The station, which relies on state funds from Moscow, decried the move as a form of political censorship. Margarita Simonyan is RT's editor-in-chief.
For us, it is absolutely obvious that it is all politically motivated, and it is yet another step, now a serious one, by Britain to shut us up so that we stop broadcasting, stop telling what we are telling, so that the orchestrated choir of mainstream media, which pushes for a single narrative, will not be interrupted, and viewers won't get distracted and won't listen to another point of view.
Meanwhile, WikiLeaks has accused Ecuador of cutting off Julian Assange's internet access on Saturday. Assange has been living in the Ecuadorian embassy in London for more than 4 years. Over the past week, WikiLeaks has published thousands of emails from the account of John Podesta, the chair of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Amnesty International has accused Australia of turning the island of Nauru into an open-air prison to house refugees and asylum seekers. Amnesty said the conditions on the tiny South Pacific island amount to torture. This is Nina Kaistat of Amnesty.
What I found on Nauru was shocking. The level of mental trauma, the level of physical illness, the daily assaults, and a complete failure of the authorities of the police to do anything about this, the daily humiliation and abuse that refugees and asylum seekers are subjected to.
In education news, the NAACP Board of Directors has voted to back a call for a moratorium on the growth of charter schools. NAACP Chair Rosalind Brock said, quote, "We're moving forward to require that charter schools receive the same level of oversight, civil rights protections, and provide the same level of transparency, and we require the same of traditional public schools." And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We are just back from North Dakota, where on Monday I was supposed to appear in court to face a riot charge for Democracy Now!'s reporting on an attack against Native American-led anti-pipeline protesters. On Saturday, September 3rd, Democracy Now! Filmed security guards working for the Dakota Access Pipeline attacking protesters. The report showed guards unleashing dogs and using pepper spray, and featured people with bite injuries and a dog with blood dripping from its nose and mouth. Democracy Now!'s report went viral online, was viewed more than 14 million times on Facebook, and was rebroadcast on many outlets, including CBS, NBC, NPR, CNN, MSNBC, and the Huffington Post. Days after Democracy Now! Published the video, Morton County issued an arrest warrant for me. I was initially charged with criminal trespassing. On Friday, as I flew into North Dakota, that charge was dropped for lack of evidence, but it was replaced by a charge of rioting. Well, on Monday, North Dakota District Judge John Grinsteiner refused to authorize the riot charges. After the decision was announced, my attorneys, Reed Brody and Tom Dixon, and I spoke outside the Morton County Courthouse, where hundreds gathered to show support for more than a half-dozen water protectors who were facing charges related to the ongoing resistance to the $3.8 billion Dakota Access Pipeline. This is, to begin, my attorney, Tom Dixon.
Good afternoon. On Friday afternoon, the criminal trespass charge, which was a frivolous criminal charge, was dismissed against Amy Goodman. At that time, we were informally informed there would be a second charge filed against her in engaging in a riot, a Class B misdemeanor charge. And we were informed that she was to appear in front of the judge at 1:30 today to hear the charge and to get bond set. This morning, we were informed the judge refused to find probable cause for that charge. I spoke with the Morton County State's Attorney, Al Coppy, this afternoon. The case against Amy Goodman is now dismissed. Amy Goodman is a free woman.
Thank you very much. Let me just say that Amy Goodman was always a free woman. I think when the prosecutor misguidedly decided to file charges against Amy Goodman, he decided to go after the wrong person. Amy Goodman is not intimidated, and this dismissal, this rejection of the charges, is a complete vindication of the right of a journalist to report on the truth, and more importantly, the right of the public to know what is happening with the pipeline and with the struggle of the people here to protect their water and to protect their land.
It is a great honor to be here today. The judge's decision to reject the state's attorney, Lad Erickson's, attempt to prosecute a journalist, in this case me, is a great vindication of the First Amendment and of our right to report. That was the scene outside the Morton County Courthouse and Jail in Mandan, North Dakota yesterday. Also on Monday, after Judge Grinsteiner rejected multiple riot charges for lack of evidence, including the riot charge against me, Morton County Sheriff Kyle Kirchmeier said, quote, "After consulting with the Morton County State's Attorney, I'm assured charges are being considered against these individuals. Let me make this perfectly clear. If you trespass on private property, you will be arrested," unquote. Lad Erickson, the state's attorney, told the New York Times, "I believe they want to keep the investigation open and see if there's any evidence in the unedited and unpublished videos that we could better detail in an affidavit for the judge. The Democracy Now! Video that many people have seen doesn't have much evidence value in it," the state's attorney said. Well, throughout the day Monday, authorities dropped or rejected multiple felony and misdemeanor charges against water protectors, including a felony charge against Marcus Freeho Little Eagle, known by his hip-hop artist name, Kwesi IMC. The state also dropped a felony charge against Little Eagle's nephew, Morgan Freeho. Misdemeanor charges against water defender Cody Hall were also dropped. Well, Democracy Now! Is on the ground at the Morton County Courthouse and Jail throughout Monday and bring you this report.
My name is Kwesi IMC. This water is what brought me here, and this water is what's going to bring our people back together, because this destructive, unnatural force that is trying to destroy this water is the same force that dismantled our homes back in the day during the Indian Wars. But what we can know as Native people, not just Native people, but all people, is that we have to come back to that water. You know, we have to carry that love of that water in our heart, because that water is going to be here long after we're gone, just like the sacred rocks.
Today you went into the courtroom and you were charged with a felony?
Yes.
What was the felony?
Unjust. That's what it was. It was unjust.
How long have you been facing these charges for?
Oh man, it was a shock. It was scary. Over a month, you know.
And how has that affected you during this month?
Emotionally, I know that everybody who's been at the camp, they're gonna leave with anxiety. You're gonna leave with PTSD. A lot of things are gonna give you anxiety. It's real, and I faced those, and I had to pray, go through ceremony to release myself of those things, because it's real, you know. But the thing about it is it's a genetic memory that we have as Native people. All these things that we're enduring, we remember that through our genetic memory, and so our ancestors are with us still, and so we can make it through if we believe, you know, and we strive to live beautiful, good lives, and be good to ourselves and be good to each other.
Shinami, which means strong thinker in Paiute. My English name is Myron Dewey, and I'm going to walk into the place where I'm not comfortable at being, you know.
You're turning yourself in?
Yes, I'm going to turn myself in.
There is an arrest warrant for you?
There's an arrest warrant for me stalking the Dakota Access Pipeline security, which these are the guys that had no badges, no names, no license plates. So it's a little intimidating when you see these guys looking like Navy SEALs in the back. You know, when you're traveling, when you're documenting. You know, I came as a filmmaker and digital storyteller, and I'm leaving now as an environmental justice filmmaker and journalist.
Is this a misdemeanor or a felony?
This is a misdemeanor.
And why did you decide to turn yourself in today?
You know, we put our faith in the law. I'm a dual citizen. I'm also a Walker Paiute tribal member, which is of a sovereign nation. And through this whole time, I've been using my tribal ID, which they have accepted. And now I'm going to go in with the same. I'm just going to face what is out there. This is what anyone would do when you get a warrant. You just follow through and hope that the legal system will support that as well and be honest as you are coming in. You know, we're just journalists documenting the inaccuracies that's happening here. And I'm a filmmaker. I came to film, but it ended up being not what I was expecting to do, was to document that the way there was bullying going on, the way there was people being rammed off the road, things that were just not true in the Morton County Police Department. We counteracted with real media. Right now we're going to walk into the jail. Looks like I'm going to be serving overnight in the jail.
My name is Angela Bibbins. I'm a licensed attorney in Colorado. I'm also Santee Dakota by heritage. My dad was an enrolled member of the Santee Sioux Nation in northeast Nebraska. Today we have 4 preliminary hearings on water protectors who were charged with felonies regarding circumstances where they're alleged to have locked down. We also have 5 bond hearings this afternoon as well for water protectors who were arrested on Saturday. One of whom is charged also with a felony. This state's attorney's office is overcharging at least the felony cases, if not many of the misdemeanor cases as well. I think it's to create more misperceptions of the water protectors as being, able to commit felonies. Therefore, maybe they're more, violent or dangerous to the community. And I think that's flatly wrong. And the judge agreed with us today. Our water protectors are unarmed and not dangerous. There are elders and women and children and families at the front line. This is water that we're talking about, not weapons.
And I'm Robin Martinez. I'm an attorney in Kansas City, Missouri. I practice in both Missouri and Kansas. I'm the regional vice president for the National Lawyers Guild. Right now, we're at the very early stages of taking a look to see what has happened in terms of the civil rights violations that have occurred. Unfortunately, it seems like the local authorities here, the Morton County Sheriff's Department, and in fact the state of South Dakota, looks like they're seriously disregarding the civil rights of many individuals. Some of the things that we're taking a very close look at right now and probably anticipate at some point in the future filing lawsuits in U.S. District Court would be for the violation of First Amendment rights against journalists that have occurred. The one thing that we have seen is particularly the Sheriff's Department and law enforcement appears to be targeting journalists. There have been a number of citizen journalists arrested, and they seem to be particularly going after Native American journalists as well. Police have become increasingly militarized over the years. I mean, we saw that in my home state, with the city of Ferguson and what occurred there. We've obviously seen that in the East Coast and Baltimore as well. And now, we know that it's not only urban police departments that are heavily militarized. It's the same thing in rural communities as well. I don't necessarily know that in and of itself creates something actionable, but from a public policy standpoint, it certainly is incredibly troubling.
Phil Concolate with West Coast Women Warriors Media Cooperative. Indigenous people globally are all facing these environmental genocide by colonial people, the colonizers and the corporate greed that is happening. Energy Transfer Partners, Kelsey Warren, this is a message to you as a CEO. Investors and shareholders, divest. Your money is no good here anymore. You are not wanted here. Your dirty oil is not wanted here. And the time is now for the shareholders and the investors to see what you are up against, the spirit and the power of the people, the beautiful prayers that are happening, the warriors on the front lines who are standing for land and life, not only for the sacred water here, but for water across the globe. And as I always want to say is that one day when this is over and we win this fight, I want my grandchildren to say and to know in their hearts and with their feelings, my grandmother fought for me so I could be here today.
My relatives, we came out here to show support for these people in court. We've seen these felonies get dropped today. Yeah. We've been maintaining our peaceful presence. We've been maintaining our song, and we've been maintaining our prayer. We've been rolling with the most amount of integrity as we can. We did good today. I don't know about y'all, but I'm going to take some photos, and we're going to call that a win.
thanks for that report to Laura Gottesdiener, John Hamilton, Hani Massoud, and Dennis Moynihan. When we come back, we'll have more on the standoff at Standing Rock, and we'll look at the health impacts of oil extraction in North Dakota. Stay with us.
We're human beings. Human and being. Human and being. Human beings. The human, the bone, flesh and blood, our DNA. We're made up of the metals, minerals, and liquids of the earth. We're shapes of the earth. Shapes of the earth. All things of the earth are made up of the same DNA, same metals, minerals, liquids. So all things of the earth are shapes of the earth.
All things of this earth are just shapes of this earth. Made of this dirt, we work, birth from the blood of the first to traverse the streets before this granite. Swimming deep and free these rivers before they damned it, before they clan planted financial panic, before the man ever orchestrated the madness. Prior to Wall Street being the main slave trade block in the North Atlantic, selling the lies in the market today. I hope it crashes. Check the status as I had a NASDAQ collapse. It's fantastic. Unleash the plague of spots where no access is granted. Overcome disadvantages when we crush this establishment and torch the corpses of General Grant and his army of mannequins. Falsehood made from plastic fastenings. Don't know what's happening. Trapped in hearts of nationalists and cool minds of capitalists. Legal drug war manufacturers criminalizing cannabis. The labeling the savages.
Shapes of the Earth by Jay Christ here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Yes, we're continuing our coverage of the resistance to the Dakota Access Pipeline and the ongoing crackdown against water and land protectors by the Morton County Sheriff's Department. One of the things that comes to light in recent weeks is the widespread use of strip search in the Morton County Jail. On Monday, Democracy Now! Broadcast live from just across the street from the Morton County Courthouse and Jail, where I asked Standing Rock Sioux Tribal Chair Dave Archambault whether he, the chair of his tribe, had been strip searched after he was arrested at a protest.
What were you charged with?
Disorderly conduct.
So it's a misdemeanor, low-level misdemeanor.
Yes.
Were you strip searched?
Yes.
Is this common that for disorderly conduct you're strip searched?
I wouldn't know because that was the first time I ever got arrested. But you know, when I thought it was humorous because I had to take all my clothes off, and then they wanted to check my braid and I don't have a very thick braid for any weapons to hide, but so I thought it was pretty crazy and unnecessary to do a strip search and to check my hair, but I accept it. That's how it was.
That's Standing Rock Sioux Tribal Chair Dave Archambault. Another member of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, Dr. Sarah Jumping Eagle, a pediatrician who works on the reservation, also says she was strip searched after she was arrested in August, taken to the Morton County Jail, and charged with disorderly conduct.
When I was taken to the jail, first I was taken by a corrections officer, transported from the protest site to the Morton County Jail. And then when they took me in there, you know, they had to take some basic information. And then one of the things that they do is have you go into a small room, and there was a female officer there, and we had to take my clothes off, and then I don't know, basically.
Cavity search?
No, not a cavity search, but I had to squat and cough. That's what she said. I had to squat and cough and then put the orange suit on.
So you were put in an orange jumpsuit?
Yeah, I was put in an orange jumpsuit, and then I was held there for several hours. And initially, you know, my family didn't know where I was, or didn't, you know, they heard about it pretty quickly and were able to come and bond me out or bail me out. I don't know what you call it, but I was in there for several hours.
How did it make you feel?
It made me feel, you know, it made me think about, you know, my ancestors and what had they gone through. And this was in no way a comparison to what we've survived before. So it just made me feel more determined about what I'm doing and why I'm here.
That's Dr. Sarah Jumping Eagle, pediatrician and member of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. Well, on Sunday, while we were on the reservation, we spoke more with Dr. Sarah Jumping Eagle about why she, as a pediatrician, opposes the $3.8 billion Dakota Access Pipeline.
I'm Dr. Sarah Jumping Eagle.
You were one of the first people arrested during these resistance movements against the Dakota Access Pipeline. When was it, and why did you do it as a doctor here?
You know, I've been involved with environmental health issues for a long time. Since we moved to North Dakota, we'd been aware of the fracking and flaring going on in the Bakken, and I've been paying attention to water issues here and across the United States as well. I'm Oglala Lakota and Mitawaka, Dakota, and so we also are aware of the issues going on in the Black Hills with uranium mining, the other contaminations that have occurred across Indian country. So as a physician, I'm very aware of what the health effects could be of a pipeline spill by the Dakota Access and Enbridge Energy Transfer Partners Corporation among our communities, how that spill would directly affect our family members and community members. I went to the protest site to participate in the protest, and on that day was when...
When was it?
I believe it was August 12th. And so there had already been some people arrested prior to that, trying to stop the machines from going onto the land just north of the Ocheti Shakoi camp. That was actually before the camp had really started, but the Sacred Stone camp had been there since April. So I went there just with the intent of participating as any citizen would, concerned about our environment.
And what was happening on the site that day?
At that time, there were already machines that were digging up the earth, and they were already they had marked out a path all the way to the river. We didn't know all of that at that time. And so there were people that were collected along the road that were praying, and they were singing and saying different protest chants, basically. And there were community members of all ages and all races there to help us, voice our opposition to what was going on. But, at the time we were there, it was very traumatizing to see that these machines were coming onto our treaty territory, which is just north of the Cannonball River. And really not listening to the voices of the people who will be affected when a pipeline spill occurs.
Now, can you give us a little history, Dr. Sarah? This pipeline was originally slated to be built above the city of Bismarck, but the cities of Bismarck and Mandan said no, so they moved lower to the reservation?
That's our understanding. The decisions that are made regarding pipelines in North Dakota, those decisions have to go through the Public Service Commission. And so we were first aware of the Dakota Access Pipeline route in 2014 is when I became aware. And so the company had notified the tribe of the route they were going to take, and there were probably about 50 of us community members that attended and voiced our opposition at that time to the route. The tribe's historian at that time informed the company of the really special and sacred place that area is. It's called Sacred Stone Camp, Sacred Stone for a reason. The confluence of the rivers right there had created many stones that were sacred to our community members, to our people, and had been used in spiritual ways for hundreds of years. And so the fact that the company and also that area is a historical place, the Cannonball Ranch. There are other stories of when our people had to flee the army and the cavalry of places that they would cross, and those are historic places as well. And so we knew that the company was already planning on violating national laws that have to do with national historic preservation. The graves and the stone effigies that are in that area are also important to our community members.
Were you there on September 3rd?
when the dog attacks occurred. I was there, but I had already been arrested previously, and so I was one of the people named in the slap suit with the restraining order. So I actually was there, but I had to stay 100 feet away.
Explain what that slap suit is.
So the slap suit basically, it named several people, including the tribal chairman, another tribal councilman, and several other people, but then they added on Jane and John Doe onto that. And initially, you know, those of us that weren't initially named in that slap suit weren't aware of that until we were served, which weren't properly served papers. In the slap suit, which basically said that there was a restraining order on us that we could not engage in protests or be near any Dakota access areas.
Because?
Because we had already previously been arrested and identified, like the charge that I was charged with was disorderly conduct.
So explain what you did that day on August 12th.
Well, I mean, I won't, you know, say all the details, but basically I'd gone there to participate in the protest, and when the company, the people who were part of the company were leaving the area, the machines and trucks were going north and south on Highway 1806, and they were basically violating our treaty rights. And so the actions that I was involved with that day were to protest the company using our treaty lands to facilitate building a pipeline which threatens our way of life.
When you say your treaty lands, can you explain what they are? And are some of those lands the Army Corps of Engineers?
Yes, the Army Corps of Engineer lands are included in our treaty territory. And you look back at the 1851 and 1868 treaties, those lands, I believe it's south of the Heart River, are part of the treaty territory, and that includes the lands that the Army Corps has claimed are their lands as well. And so that's something that I think isn't really fully understood by people in North Dakota or in the United States. Once the lands were flooded in I believe it was 1962, with the dams, that the Army Corps claimed all the land along the river.
That created Lake Oahe.
Yes, that created Lake Oahe and Lake Sakakawea up on the affiliated territory.
What do you think will happen at this point with the pipeline? Do you think you'll be able to stop it?
I do think we'll be able to stop it, and especially with the support of our allies across the world. I mean, that's something that's given us a lot of hope, is that people are recognizing that this is not just a local issue, but it's an international issue. We know that there are people around the world that are also fighting to keep their waters clean and fighting for the health of their families and community members. And that's really what I want people to know, is that we're average people, we're doctors, teachers, we're moms. I'm a mother and a wife, and we're standing up because we don't want the corporations to make these decisions for my children anymore. I want my children to have clean water. I don't want to worry about how many hydrocarbons, how much fracking waste has been dumped into our river. And we have communities all across South Dakota that depend on this river also. So those are the things that I think people are recognizing, and that's why they're standing with us and helping us.
I was speaking with a non-native person who'd come to the reservation casino to see a concert and asked him what he thought about the pipeline. And he said it's the safest way to carry the oil, better than trucks. Your response?
My response is that if we need infrastructure here in our communities, we do need infrastructure. And so the safest way is for us to change to renewable energy. Right now we're standing here being buffeted by winds that could be harnessing energy for our communities. And North Dakota should be in the lead of harnessing that wind energy. Yes, we are still using fossil fuels, and our hope is that we'll gradually use less fossil fuels and use renewable energy, which we know is healthier for our people and for the planet.
As a doctor and a pediatrician, Dr. Sarah, what are your concerns right now?
My concerns are that I feel that we're part of one of the biggest public health experiments in our lifetime. We really don't know the long-term effects of fracking and of hydrocarbons on our bodies. We know that other scientists have identified some of these chemicals that are being put into the water as neuroendocrine receptor that they interact with our neuroendocrine receptors that could affect our DNA and our reproductive health. So those are my concerns: is how is this affecting my daughter right now as she drinks this water.
And speaking of health, there's been recent regulations changed around radioactive waste here in North Dakota. How does that relate, and can you explain what that is?
How that relates is that the state of North Dakota and the Public Health Department and the Public Service Commission had recently voted to raise the level of radioactive waste in the state of North Dakota, the level that could be stored here. Prior to that, I believe the level was 10 microcuries, and now they've raised it to 30 microcuries. The companies a lot of times have been using subcontractors who were dumping radioactive waste just in random warehouses, and those are found. I mean, there's stories like that every year or two here in North Dakota, and of course they're not front page news in the local media. So those are things that we have to be aware of and continuing to fight against the lack of regulation of these environmental waste products in North Dakota, and the lack really of a public health discussion in our state, that have not been given a voice in the Public Service Commission process, or really a voice in the media either. And I really think they don't want people to be aware of what's happening so that we won't be afraid of what's going into our bodies.
What's the status of the SLAPP suit now?
Right now, the SLAPP suit had been dismissed. As far as I know, I'd recently received an offer in the mail from the prosecutors for a plea deal as well. But I know that I'm not guilty of disorderly conduct, and so that's my fight that I'll continue, and so will many of the water protectors as well.
Where do you live?
I live in Fort Yates, North Dakota, and I've also been a part of the camp at the Ocheti-Shakowee camp.
Is Fort Yates on the reservation?
Yes, it's just about 20 miles south of Cannonball.
Thank you.
Yes. Then one last thing is that I really want to call people to notice that the companies are really trying to commit environmental genocide on our people, and that the fact that they deemed that the city of Bismarck was not a safe place to put this pipeline, but they then decided to place it north of our communities, points out to the fact that this is environmental genocide. It's been attempted in several other communities, including my original community is the Oglala Lakota Nation. We see a pattern of corporations doing this, and as people, we're going to stand up against that, and we're going to continue to fight for our health and our way of life.
The issue of fracking and radioactive waste, can you explain the connection?
What happens when they are fracking and they're pumping chemicals and using our water to squirt it down these holes that they create to then suck it back out. They suck it back through these fracking socks. And the fracking socks over time, because they're collecting so much sediment and minerals, some of that is the naturally occurring radioactive minerals in the ground, but it becomes concentrated in these fracking socks. So the fact that we're finding, thousands of them in a warehouse that has not been monitored at all, and how is that affecting the groundwater underneath that, is very concerning.
That's Dr. Sarah Jumping Eagle, a pediatrician on the reservation, member of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. When we come back, we'll continue to look at health care on Standing Rock, including health care at the resistance camps, where the first baby was just born. Stay with us.
I want to be happy. I feel I deserve it. But the only way I feel I deserve it, but the only way that I was going to do was if I forgive. What has happened in the past will never leave us. Next 100, 200 years, it'll be with us. And we have to deal with it every day.
Check it. We're young warriors, path we roam. This ain't Hollywood, yo, this is our home. We're light, we're different, we fight and resistant. Walk the red road, that's why we stay gifted. Young warriors, happy and alive. We made it this far cause our grandma survived. Indigenous pride as we ball up our fists. 500 years cause we say easy, hell no. It's been a long road, but it's quite alright because we've been foretold that we're modern day warriors in modern day time. Where people have a line and we're seeing all the signs. See it in the sun and we see it in the skies. Hear it in the people and we see it in their eyes. The people are fed up cause they haven't been fed. And we're hungry for the knowledge cause we've been misled. Misled by the media, misled by the news. Update, they want you to stay tuned. Propaganda on the screen, but the mental breakthroughs will curb the mind control that keeps you satisfied and glued.
I Resist by Keith's IMC, featuring Casper. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report, and a shout-out today's class, fifth graders from East Village Community School. Well, we are just back from Cannonball, North Dakota, where thousands of people have flocked from across the United States, Latin America, and Canada over the months to join the resistance camps opposing the construction of the $3.8 billion Dakota Access Pipeline. Most are Native Americans representing hundreds of tribes and First Nations from across the Americas. The ongoing encampment is considered to be one of the largest gatherings of Native Americans in decades. In the camps, people have set up multiple kitchens, a school that teaches Lakota languages and other subjects, medical services to care for the people who've come to resist the pipeline. And now it looks like there'll be at least one more person to be taught and cared for at the camp. Just yesterday, a group of Indigenous midwives posted online that the first baby was born in the camp. Well, on Saturday at the main resistance camp in Cannonball, North Dakota, I spoke with women and midwives about the importance of reproductive health care at the resistance camps and on the reservation.
Melissa Rose.
Carolina Reyes.
Uwitawi.
And can you talk about what you have set up here at the resistance camp?
Yes, we've come with a group of women to be able to support women's health here at the encampment. Sovereignty for Indigenous people is only going to come about through the support of women and women's health. In the same way that we defend and protect Mother Earth is the same way that we need to defend and protect women and the next generations of children being born. And that's why not only is there a fully staffed and run, volunteer-run clinic here that runs 24 hours, 7 days a week at the camp, but there's also now going to be a women's space where traditional midwifery is going to be promoted and utilized to support the women here.
You're a midwife?
I am.
And Uwitawi, you're from Cheyenne River. How far is the reservation from here?
I don't know exactly the reservation line, but where I live is about 2.5 hours from here because, Standing Rock and Cheyenne River are connected, so there's a highway. I'm not sure what it is, but...
So talk about what it means to you that there's this women's health clinic, this midwifery clinic right on site.
I believe, first of all, I want to say I'm speaking on behalf of the Wambli Gleshka Wia Okola Kichie. And what we do is help in the community in healing the bonds between women and children because, the women are the backbone of the communities and the families. So it's very important to us that these healings take place because it has an effect on our children. And having the midwives come back and us performing the ceremonies that needed to be performed from the point of conception until birth and even after birth is very important for the spiritual connectedness of our children with our families. And because we're not doing that, we see so many of our children that are lost to drugs and alcohol and violence and suicide. So by making these healing connections and performing these ceremonies and having the families involved in the birth, I think that is very important for our people, not only mentally but spiritually. And having that here at the camp is, I think, really going to be powerful for the women that are here.
What happens to women who give birth in Cheyenne River?
Right now we have one doctor that comes from Pierre, and he schedules the women's births based on his schedule and induces them. So I would say like at least 90% of the women in Cheyenne River who have babies are scheduled on his schedule. And it's not right for our children to be born that way.
How did that happen? So they don't go into labor at home and then when they're ready come to the clinic or the hospital.
If they do not have their baby based on whatever due date he gives them, then I've even had other personal family members that I have who said, okay, well, it's my due date, but he wants to have me come in early to schedule a birth. So then, based on his schedule, he schedules them, they go in, they get induced, and then they're out the door. So it's almost like they're running cattle through, the IHS, and it's not right.
Melissa, what does it mean to be a Native midwife?
We were discussing this earlier, and there are ties, traditional ties to the women who take care of women in the tribe and that take care of the children, and they have a lifetime tie to those children. And it's very important that they grow up with those ties and that they are always connected to their home and their home place and their family. And that's what it means.
And where do you live?
I live in Colorado Springs now.
And what has it meant for you to come to this camp, and why did you come here?
My family is here. My relatives are here. They're fighting a really hard fight, and I have skills to offer them that's very much needed here. And we found out even after I got here how much more it was needed than we even knew.
And what nation are you with?
Akwesasne Mohawk.
The battle against the pipeline, why is that a battle that matters to you in Colorado Springs?
I'm downriver. We're all downriver at some point. We're all ground zero. Everyone on the planet is on ground zero somewhere, and our first home is water. And I'm very intimately connected with that. And I think that's why we're all connected here.
So the clinic you're setting up here goes beyond midwifery.
Yes.
It is a women's space, and
Yes.
Explain what your plans are.
Yes. Well, Amy, the roots of this actually goes back to, the recent history of healthcare for birth for Indigenous women in North America, and in this country in particular, where, for instance, Indian Health Services had a policy of forcibly sterilizing Indigenous women. From 1973 to 1976, more than 3,000 women were forcibly sterilized, even women under the age of 21. And so that decreased between the 1970s and 1980s, that decreased the birth rate for Native population in the United States of America from 3.8% to 1.8%. So that is genocide, and that cannot continue to happen. That is genocide of Indigenous women, and just the same way that this pipeline is the genocide of our Mother Earth, and it's the genocide of the river and the water that feeds us all, that nourishes us all, just as it did in the womb. So that is why we're doing this here, to support the women to come back from that colonization. Right now, Native women, this space in particular, creates the potential, the possibility that women, that we can decolonize, not just through birth, but really come back to a place of matriarchy and respecting women in a way that we can also respect Mother Earth and not lay pipelines in her, not dig out her liver, her coal, just as they're doing in Black Mesa, Big Mountain, Sovereign Dene Nation, just as they're doing all across the world and across the globe. And right now we're here, but everywhere people are in your home communities, find out who the Native folks are there that are living there. Find out what they're battling. Find out what the battles are and how you can support them, because they are doing it for all of us, for all future generations, for all the babies to come. We need this water. We need this earth to be healthy, to be beautiful, for them to live in. I come from occupied Tohono O'odham land in so-called Tucson now, and there is a copper mine that's trying to take away, to take a sacred land from the Apache there called Oak Flat. So I've been involved in that issue as well. I mean, everywhere we come from, those battles are there. So I want to make that connection for folks at home to look around you and to find the Native people around you and the battles that they're fighting for. If you can't come here, support them there.
Midwives Carolina Reyes and Melissa Rose, as well as Uita Wynn from Cheyenne River Reservation. We end today's show with Cody Hall of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe. He had two arrest warrants. He had an arrest warrant issued for 2 misdemeanors of criminal trespass for land defense actions. On Monday, he learned the charges were dropped. I spoke to Cody over the weekend about his arrest.
In the manner of which I was arrested was treated like I was the native Osama, with at least 18 state officers that got out of their squad cars when I was arrested on a Highway 1806 going up to Bismarck.
So then you were taken to the Morton County Jail in Mandan?
Yeah, yep. I was taken there, and I was met with state, police officers dressed in their, in their gear. And then also just really, villainized, just like I said, just FBI wanted to question me. I invoked my right, silence.
Have you been targeted since your arrest?
Yes, I have been targeted. As I look at, side mirrors and rearview mirrors, I have DAPL security, and they're rented trucks that they drive around with no license plate on them. And so I like to kind of play a game, and I'll just drive around a little bit just to see if that, vehicle is, tailing me. And sure enough, I get a lot of, vehicles tail me in the city.
We also spoke with Cody Hall about his experience inside the Morton County Jail, including how he was strip searched.
As I exited out of the vehicles and entered Morton County, I came up an elevator, and as the elevator door opened up, I was met with state police. And then, of course, Morton County people are there to book people. But and then from there started the process of the booking. And then again, went into a private room where they asked you to, get naked. They had my arms. They kind of like a extend your arms out, and you're fully naked. And they have you, lift up your genitals and, bend over, cough. And so it's really one of those tactics that they try to break down your mentalness of everyday life, because not every day do you wake up and say, hey, I'm going to get, naked and have somebody search me today, that's a private, that's a private feeling for you, when you get naked, so.
And 4 days later, when you were finally released, they hadn't allowed you to go out on bail or bond for those 4 days. You came before a judge in the orange jumpsuit?
Yes, I sat in the court office in my orange jumpsuit, locked, still handcuffed, exited out of the courtroom, and as I left the courtroom, there were 20 or so state police, all in their bulletproof vests, everything just looking, like they're going into action of some sort. And then they literally had a line from the courtroom to the door that connects you to the county jail. And my mother walked out with me. And as we got to the door, they were opening the door up, and as I looked behind me, my mother and I, all of the cops then proceeded to kind of
That was
swarm.
Water Protector Cody Hall, the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe. The charges were dropped against him. Special thanks to Dennis Moynihan, Honey Massoud, Laura Gottesdiener, and John Hamilton. I'm Amy Goodland. Thanks for joining us.